Got it.
You mentioned a different kind of leverage to me, Shannon.
Yeah, I love the concept of leverage,
Of
and
course.
when you talk to people, it's really important in business, and there's so many different types of leverage, and
Yep.
like people think of the common ones like, oh, I leverage with real estate, and as I build up equity, I leverage it somewhere else, or I leverage debt. I borrowed a bunch of money, got an SBA loan, and that leverage. So, but I think that the greatest leverage in the world is right at your fingertips, and it doesn't cost you a dime. And I'm a perfect example of how I've used it to leverage not a great skill set, especially when I first started,
Right.
not an expert at anything, and not that, I mean, I'm a hard worker, but yeah, I mean, I'd like to cut corners and not really kill
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And I think that, and so what I'll talk about, this thesis is that the most potent form of leveraging, it's made up of three things.
Okay.
It's made up of optimism, having that positive attitude
Yep.
all the time.
Persistent optimism.
Yeah. Just, you can't stop it.
Okay.
Being able to smile often, even in the face of adversity, that quick smile, it's a big deal. And I'll tell you why. And then maybe the most important part of this trifecta here is having the ability to lift other people up and help them.
Oh, yes.
Right. Those three things. And I broke this down on a post on X. You can find me, just search for Shannon Jean, or we'll put it in the show notes too. And so the first one is it seems so basic, is your attitude and being an optimist. And I will tell you that I know it comes very natural to me, and I'm just used to it after all these years.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes. It takes effort and you got to work at it. But when you're the positive person in any relationship, whether it's your business, a group, a peer group,
people want to be around. Well, people want to be around you, but if you're the negative person, people want a distance from you.
Correct.
Yeah.
When you're positive and you can have that framework, of course things go wrong, but you can also, I mean, we were just talking on the Wednesday show about the things I learned losing $1 million, right?
Yeah, right.
But I make that into a positive story now, because that's just my
persistent optimism.
Correct.
Yes.
It brings you better friends, better employees, better customers, better suppliers. It just naturally attracts for lack of a better phrase,
higher caliber.
Yeah, higher caliber. I was going to say higher quality, but it's kind of subjective. But and you can learn it. This is
a teachable, learnable skill. It really just takes one decision that you're gonna do this and commit to it, and you'll miss it sometimes, but I mean, even because I'm the same way. Like I as you were going through these first one, I do that. Okay. Smile in the face of adversity. Oh my gosh. Like that's who I've been all the way through. I had to learn how to do it. Not all the way through, but I had to learn that like as a teenager, really.
Yeah.
And then the ability, and I would say, and willingness to lift other people up, that I only really learned in the last, I'll say 10 years. And boy, howdy.
Oh man.
Has it been, it's huge, right? Yeah. And I've always wanted to help people like that. And I think that was enough of this to keep me, moderately successful, right?
Okay.
My willingness, my interest, my eagerness in helping people fix things, right? To do things, whatever. Like you've got a problem, I'm going to help you with it. But that's not the same as lifting other people up. And as soon as I started to lift other people up, it was like,
it comes back to you.
I've been missing. It's exponential.
It is. And so like this is learnable, but it's also, like Dave said, you do have to be active with it. It needs to be front of mind. And
yes, you're going to do this.
Yeah. And that's if you may have to write down notes. Like, Dave and I use these quartet things that go in between our keyboard and our monitor, and it's like a piece of glass, and you write notes on it.
Oh, I love the quartet pad.
So do I.
Yep.
Yeah. I often write, positive messages to myself. One of the most powerful ways to become an optimist or to trick your brain to think more optimistic is to replace a couple of words. Replace the word have with get. So instead of I have to go here, you get to go. Instead of I have to get up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to catch a flight, it's like I get to get up at 5 a.m., man. It's beautiful in the morning.
Yep.
The sun's coming up, whatever it is. So, I can say it sounds easy, but try it for a while. Replace have to with get to. And just think
I
about
like
it.
this. I like these brain hacks. Replace.
It works. Write it down. Put it on a piece of paper.
Have to with get to. It's interesting because on Friday I was in LA. I was flying back that afternoon, last Friday, from Podcast Movement, and we always record Mac Geek Gab. Our sort of standing time slot is Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And I looked at my calendar and I'm like, I am going to be available at 9 a.m. Eastern time on Friday. And I'm also flying back that day, but I'm not flying back. Like my flight wasn't until 1 o'clock. I'm like, well, we're going to be done with the show. My flight wasn't until 4 p.m. Eastern. So I started reframing this day in my head. It was like, okay, well, I'm going to end the day on Eastern time because I'm going to be home. So why not just start my day on Eastern time? Now, I didn't end the prior day on Eastern time. So I got about 4 hours of sleep, mind you, before we did the show. I have video evidence that I did the show. I have no real memory of doing the show, but that's okay. It's fine. My co-host, I did a lot of prep and my co-host shouldered the load. And so it was great. Yeah. But I was like, at first looking at this, 2 weeks out, it was like, oh man, that's going to hurt. But I
would think the same thing. Yeah.
But once I said, no, this makes sense, let's just do it. Once I got into that frame, and really even once I got to California and I set up my podcasting setup there, and I'm excited about this new app that I'm using to mix things, Sounddesk for the Mac. It's amazing. I got excited. I'm like, oh, we get to record the show remotely. I have this cool setup that I really like all of those things. It was like, I did. I woke up and I was kind of bleary-eyed and like, whoa, all right, yep, this is harder than I thought, but we're doing it. So here we are. But other than the, kind of obvious issues, I was positive, even with the obvious issues. I was like, I'm going to make this work. Like, I got a story to tell, and I get to do this.
Yep. And language is a real important part of this. And
I agree.
Reframing language. And I'll give you a good example. Years ago, if you like the artist Beck, which I like a lot.
You've told this story. I love this story.
He has a song that's called Loser. And in that song, there are 3 words. The first word I'm not going to say because I can't let myself think this way. It's something, a loser. And, it has the word I am as part of that phrase. And I don't think that way. So when I sing that song, I replace the word, I'm with your.
Yep.
I always think I sing that song, you're a loser, baby. Not, I can't think the other way. It's my inner judge has been so fine-tuned over, 30 years of thinking this way that I just replace the words. Another powerful word that I use all the time is yet.
Yes. Adding yet to the end of a negative thought or I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to do that yet.